you brought up the topic of Israel, and we just recently had Bruce Fisk and Ben Norquist on, and they mentioned your podcast as a good resource for people who are, because you've been wrestling with this.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm assuming from your educational background and, that you kind of came up along in sort of what would be Christian Zionism.
Yeah.
Or at least that was the default. It was for me. And I didn't even grow up. I grew up in a mainline denomination, but it was still sort of our default. What tipped you in the direction of wanting to listen more to Palestinian voices to the point where you get invited to speak at the Church at the Crossroads conference, which you did a couple of months ago?
To answer your question, I was raised, John MacArthur, that whole world is dispensational.
Mm-hmm.
He used to call himself a leaky dispensationalist because he's reformed as well. He's a reformed dispensational. Those often don't really go hand in hand. So I don't think I ever heard the term Zionism. But when you're just studying the Bible, I wasn't even thinking about Israel, Palestine, and Bible college and seminary. It was kind of like, it was more like, is there a future for Israel theologically?
Right.
And I could see even in seminary, it's like Romans 11 seems to say that, but then other passages don't, and it's complex. And what is the Israel of God in Galatians? And we debate that and stuff. And so I already was kind of like, I'm not sure I'm convinced of these dispensational arguments for that, but it wasn't a massive interest for me. Oddly enough, though, I did study in Israel. My last semester in undergrad was there for 4 months. 1999, so it was right between the two intifadas. But I was so clueless to the modern situation. I was there to study biblical archaeology and the land and biblical sites, and they even had an optional class on the modern state of Israel. And I was like, why would anybody take that? We're here to study the Bible,
Yeah.
But you feel, like I remember, you touring around the land, and whenever you would go to like a Palestinian village, it was kind of like, all right, no, hey, you guys, be careful here.
Ready.
Yeah. And it was always way more run down, and I don't know if anybody said it explicitly, but it's like, because Palestinians don't really, they're kind of more dirty and aren't going to care for themselves, and they just have trash everywhere and stuff. And you go to a Jewish village, and it's nice and clean and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, so they're just kind of the better people. And Palestinians, they're just a little more the dirtier, more violent people. And now I've learned that, like, it's because, like, almost all the water in Israel goes towards the Jewish villages, and they get Palestinian villages get like 3% or something of the water, 1%. They get like nothing. And then the economic sanctions, the apartheid situation in the West Bank, and so it's like I just saw the tip of the iceberg, and I didn't even ask questions about the deeper thing going on beneath. But didn't really think about it much after seminary. You always hear things flaring up in the news, but it's like, they're always Jews and Palestinians can't get along, and it's always going to be conflict. It goes back to the Old Testament, never any conflict. But it was I think a year before October 7th, I had a Palestinian theologian on my podcast, because I'm just open to anybody, and I remember thinking, like, ooh, this is a little nervous, like Palestinian Christian. Like, I know there are such things, but man, are people going to think he's a terrorist or something? And he was the sweetest, man. He helped start Bethlehem Bible College.
I was going to ask who was it?
It was one of the founders, I believe, or one of the early leaders of Bethlehem Bible College. I'm blanking on his name now. If you said it, I would know. He lives in Oregon.
It was a Bishar Awad.
Alex Awad.
Alex. Okay, yeah. Alex is his absolute sweetheart. He's so nice. Yeah.
And he was so passionate, evangelical, and gospel centered, all this stuff. I was like, wow, this is a little like disorienting. And then I remember him talking about how just the media, is just so biased against Palestinians. I was like, well, I don't know. Like, the liberal media isn't, right? He's like, no, even they just aren't telling our story correctly. And I was like, huh. Now it's like I've been, I've seen that happen in different issues, where it's like we just get fed one side of the issue. We don't listen to another side. And so that was like, oh, wow, that kind of like got me interested. And then when October 7th hit, Here, okay, I vividly remember my kids were in the kitchen. They're like,
Mm.
dude, dad, something's going on in Israel. I'm like, something's always going on in Israel. Like, no, this seems big. I'm like, I mean, it's always stuff flaring up.
Yeah.
But then I started watching videos. I'm like, oh, this is huge.
Mm.
My heart sank. I was like, oh my word, there's people being slaughtered right now. And we were just distraught. But later that afternoon, knowing just a glimpse of the kind of history of the conflict, something flares up. Israel blames Palestine, and then they, react with 10 times the force, right?
Yeah.
Palestinians, okay, maybe the suicide bomber blows up a couple people, and then there's, an air raid that kills, 150 Palestinians. We could dissect cause and effect and whatever, but like that's just kind of an objective observation of the death toll between.
Right.
So here, massive massacre of Israeli, biggest ever in the history of that conflict. And like my heart just sank even deeper. I was like, oh my word, Israel's going to flatten Gaza.
Mm.
There's going to be thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of innocent people that are going to be slaughtered. And I was like, I just felt sick to my stomach.
Mm.
And then sure enough, that's what happened.
Yep.
I mean, pretty quickly after. And what threw me for a loop was Christians like defending it and repeating just talking points cooked up by the IDF, which is so it's just listen for like 5 minutes to like, it's just so easy. Why'd you bomb that apartment building? Well, there's a Hamas was using it as a base of operations.
Mm.
Oh, okay. So like, well, wait, how do we know? Like they just, I mean, they have a history of like lying through their teeth.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of people do. Every government, I'm not
every
not
government,
unique,
every government,
not unique to Israel, but it's like but Netanyahu says something like, well, okay, I'm like, how do we know there's a tunnel? And even if a terrorist built a tunnel under my house and you bomb my family to hell, I'm going to say I don't share that ethical framework. If a school shooter is hiding out and the only way to kill the shooter is to drop a bomb on the school and say, well, we had to kill all the civilians, but we got the shooter. No, but like that doesn't. Yeah, but he was using them as human shields.
Exactly.
Like, there's no like. So I hear Christians doing this, almost like zombies, just repeating these talking. Like this is diabolical. Like how do you listen to yourself speak? But then. So that sent me into a tailspin. I mean, I remember just hearing the most anti-Christ-like statements come out of the mouths of Christians, and I'm just like, what are we doing here? So,
yeah.
I would say the last 2 years, I've spent more time reading books and books and books, like academic historical books. I said I need to understand the situation better because this is. There's just something going on here with how the church is responding that's just sickening. So I for hours a day, and this is not my job. Like this is kind of like I'd get up early and stay up late and just read, follow the war every single day, found news sources that are not Hamas or Israel, but like third-party sources that are doing really, really good, thorough research, that often it's independent news outlets, and they're not controlled by some billionaire donor Zionist, and yeah, it's been my passion for the last 2 years. And I just, yeah, let me stop. I've talked a lot.
No, I would let you go on because I had for me, the moment was back in 2013, around 2013, I started getting very interested. I came through the door of eschatology. I was studying eschatology, realizing how unfounded pop dispensationalism is.
Yeah.
There is a more, progressive dispensationalism has gotten tried to be a little more biblical than the what came before. But then I just realized, oh, this is so massively wrong. And this shapes how so many of us have looked at the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, the land, all of that. I need to re-engage that. So then I came across the documentary With God on Our Side, and that just absolute eye opener. I ended up meeting Porter Speakman was the director. I ended up meeting him, and then I ended up going to Christ at the Checkpoint in 2014 and going there for the first time. And that's where, to me, it was just like, okay, everything we have been told is at best a severe distortion.
Yes.
At worst, an outright lie. And we've got, so I did the same thing you're talking about. I dug in. My Kindle has a whole folder of Israel Palestine, eschatology, politics, geopolitics, stuff about the Israel lobby. It just, and so for like 10 years.
Did you read Mersheimer's book, The Israel Lobby? Is that
everybody should read Mersheimer's book? I think it should be required reading.
That was one of the most disturbing.
Yes, I've recommended that more than probably any other book on the issue, just to show how insidious and how we are being. And it's not this anti-Semitic conspiracy. No. That's the thing that Mersheimer talks about. He's like, this isn't a conspiracy. This is all done in the open.
Yes,
this is done. Literally nothing about it is conspiratorial. No.
He has over 1,000 footnotes in that book, citing just. I hate to throw around the facts, but he's just citing, like, here is the quote from this person that gave billions of dollars.
Yeah. It was patently obvious. I mean, just last week when Trump spoke at the Knesset and just stood up and just said, and here, Miriam Adelson, she can come into my office and she has $60 billion, folks. And
I love that he says this. I love that he just says it out loud.
Just openly admit it. And then immediately I just shared it on my Facebook. I was like, hey, FYI, this is being said out loud. He is openly saying, I am bought by donors on this issue. Yes. And people immediately just coming at me in the comments of like, oh, this is a conspiracy. I'm like, he's literally saying it. There's nothing conspiratorial about it.
Yeah.
But people are so, I think what it boils down to, because I've been chewing on this for over a decade now and trying to get other evangelicals. I still embrace the term evangelical. I'm a Wesleyan, broadly evangelical. I go to an Anglican church now, but that's very much my tribe. Old school Christianity today is very much my people. I've been trying to get my tribe to listen and to just question the narrative that they've been told, even if they don't ever end up coming and agreeing completely, to just question the narrative for over a decade. And so seeing you doing it, seeing other Christians who are seeing secular Christian, I mean, people like Tucker Carlson, I know he's not a Christian. I mean, he personally, I guess he's a Christian, but
he actually came back to his Episcopalian faith. He does not like the Episcopalian church, but he is a dedicated, outspoken Christian now. I think it's his brand is not a Christian thing. No, he's a pundit, but personally, so seeing voices, Christian voices, at least, or people who are self-professing Christians starting to question the narrative, to me, that's been encouraging, but the massive pushback against it. We did a series here on the channel, 7 Biblical Reasons I'm Not a Zionist. So it's like a 4-part series here on the channel. And the amount of pushback that you get from that, from evangelical Christians, it's not unexpected, but that never makes it less grievous to me. Because what I think is, and you can tell me what you think, I think evangelical Christians are so intent on being on God's side that they've been told this country is on God's side, or God's on their side, or both. And so to question our understanding of this political situation ends up questioning their understanding of God. And is God really God? Can I trust the Bible? It's like when people first learn, like, wait, the Bible doesn't teach a secret rapture. And you're like, well, they start to like, oh my gosh, what else have I feel like Israel, Palestine is one of those issues where people have attached so much of their faith unconsciously to that to question it is a terrifying thing. I don't know what. Did you go through that? I think, so part of the talk I gave at the recent Church of the Crossroads conference that was on this issue was raising the question why, 98% of countries around the world are not on Israel are like, this is wrong, you know.
Mm.
The global church is on board, like everybody. I mean, 90+% of the world, right? The only people holding out that are still, and like you said, even a good number of conservatives, especially younger. I mean, the recent poll is like less than 50% of younger Republicans are
Yep.
now on saying, I think Israel's doing a good thing. We need to support Israel. So the last holdout are political leaders who have a financial motivation to support Israel.
Mm.
And largely evangelicals in America,
Yeah.
not globally, obviously. So it's like and I think when you put it in that perspective, it's like, well, why? Even now, I could get like, okay, January 2024, okay, I could see, but now, like when I hear like evangelicals like still supporting it, I'm like, wait, you know, I a year and a half ago I said, okay, I could see where, you know, based on the information you're getting, but now, like, come on, you have an internet connection, right? Like, I think so. There's several reasons. I mean, one might be a committed Zionist theology. I think most people are what I would call passive Zionists.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would say the Zion. I wouldn't even know if I'd use that term. I would say
they wouldn't know that term. Yeah,
no, they read the Bible and, you know, they see verses that say Israel's God's people. They look at a map. There's Israel. You know, in the wake of the Holocaust, God did some miracle, established a Jewish state, which is kind of like, you know, after 2,000 years, they got their country back, and I should probably support that side. Like that. That's and I'm sympathetic to somebody that just logically, that's kind of the 5 minute, you know, like you know, way their mind works. Like I get that, you know. I think there's a deeper. So that's why I think passive Zionism is one reason why people would support, why evangelical American Christians would support Israel. I also think it's a fear of being liberal. Like this is something I said in my talk, you know, like they see in their kind of, I would say, narrow world of news sources, you know, Fox News or certain social media accounts. It's like, well, it's the left wingers that are on the Palestinian side, and the right wingers are on Israel's side. So because I don't want to be a left winger, I'm going to support Israel. This is the right wing position,
right?
And if I go Palestinian, it's just almost like there's like a psychological block of the enemy supports Palestinians, the left wingers.
Exactly.
And you felt that, right? I mean, I felt that growing up. It's
dude,
like,
I was United Methodist, and up until 2-3 years ago, and the only people in my denomination that would agree that what Israel was doing was unjust were the people who I vehemently disagreed with on every other issue. And then my fellow evangelicals were, I mean, it was tumbleweeds trying to find other Methodists who, you know, it was just, it was assumed, oh, that's the liberal position. So you might as well start flying the rainbow flag and start giving blockers to kids and start doing all that stuff. And because that's what you really want to do, because you're a woke Marxist, neoliberal, whatever. And it's super frustrating.
And that's where you know, we need to exchange a fear of being liberal for a passion for being biblical. You know, look at what's going on. Analyze the talking points that are still being used to justify what's going on. Sort through the information you're getting. I mean, there's going back to the Israel lobby and all the money behind the scenes. There's a ton of money put into promoting what I would say is propaganda, misinformation. You know, which now is being exposed. Every time it happens, it's being exposed. You just have to kind of know where to get good information, because there's so much money out there trying to protect you from hearing what's really going on, you know.
I always tell people, Google the word Hasbara. Just do a Google search for Hasbara, and you will immediately see that, oh, these are not random accounts commenting because they're passionate about this issue. This is a concerted effort by a government to, I mean, it's Did you saw Israelism? Did you see the recent documentary?
No.
Dude,
no, I didn't.
You gotta watch it when you have a chance. It is young Jewish girl, American Jewish girl, realizing like reckoning with Zionism and coming to a conclusion. And Samuel Watt is in it, and that is a phenomenal documentary from a secular Jewish perspective. But it was that same thing, recognizing, once you don't embrace that narrative, you become a target, like a political target, and the money gets spent to take you out, get you out of any sphere of influence.
And what like there's been so many whistleblowers that have seen what's going on. Like there's a recent open letter written to Donald Trump from I think it was 152, something like that, 150-ish American healthcare volunteers, that went over. They spent a month, 6 weeks in the hospitals there, and all of them said, "This is what we see. We're operating on kids with sniper shots to the head one day, sniper shots to the genitals of kids the other day, almost like this is like a concerted, like, hey, we're gonna practice on the head today and the genitals tomorrow." We've seen and so they spent a cumulative like thousands, hundreds of hours in the hospital, and they all 150 American doctors says, we've never seen a Hamas militant in a hospital. So every time they blow up a hospital and say, well, it's a Hamas, we're there. Like we haven't seen a single like Hamas militant at all. We just see, apartment buildings being bombed, and we have to operate on kids, that are, moms will bring their kids in a bag with like arms and legs hanging off and stuff. And like, this is what we've seen. Or the whistleblower, Anthony Aguilar, who was volunteered. He's a decorated Purple Heart, very high up military guy who just retired. Then he went over to volunteer. He had no dog in the fight. He's like, I just want to go and serve as a security force for the what's the
distribution, the GHF.
And he's like, this is they are mowing down people. Israel, I saw it. They're mowing down women and children waiting for food. I saw it with my own eyes. It's happening. And they're spraying bullets at the crowd. And he says for crowd control, like to keep them in line, they spray bullets, which are bouncing off rocks, hitting kids, sometimes just directly hitting, and they tried to discredit him, just making up all kinds of lies about him. And then when you fact checked all the accusations, none of them are true. I mean, it's just, but like no mainstream outlet has had him. He's on every, independent outlet saying this is what I saw. Like it is absolutely horrific, war crimes all over the place, and this comes from a guy who spent like 20 years in Afghanistan and Iraq and, decorated soldier, Purple Heart. So anyway, it just seems so, I guess what I want to tell people is like, when you believe something, just ask yourself, find the ultimate source of that. Like where, okay, well, there's terror tunnels on there, or just a recent one where, Israel bombed, what was it? They killed like 40 people. This is after the quote ceasefire, you see sci-fi. They've killed over 80 people since the ceasefire. And there's a recent one that said, I think it was a bulldozer got blown up, and they said a bunch of Hamas and Netanyahu, well, Hamas came out of tunnels and attacked our bulldozer. Turns out the bulldozer, that's not true. The bulldozer ran over one of their own unexploded bombs. And so just go to the source, like where, before you believe something, trace that piece of information and say, okay, I want to find the ultimate source where this came from,
I think most people don't want to do that, honestly, because of, like you said, one, your point, fear of being liberal. I think that's the biggest reason that more Christians won't speak out on it. Fear of being branded liberal. And also fear, the insidious thing about the reason that I always post, when I post on eschatology, I always try to use the hashtag eschatology matters, because the playbook that generations have been raised on now in evangelicalism is, at the end of when it's about to hit the fan, the whole world is going to turn and come against Israel and be gathered against Israel, and then Jesus is going to come. And so they actually see global opposition to Israel as a necessity for their end time scheme. And though it makes people even more intransient, and it actually becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, like, oh, the more of a pariah state Israel becomes, the more I need to stand with them, because this is going to be the test of my faithfulness. And I don't want to be Gog and Magog. I want to be there when Jesus comes. I mean, it's demonically insidious.
Yeah.
That it blows my mind.
Even from a Zionist hermeneutic of the Old Testament, like God's commitment to Israel, God's favor upon Israel, that was still conditioned upon Israel following God's commandments. He says extremely clearly in Leviticus 18, my chapter, if you disobey these laws, I'm going to vomit you out of the land. You do not have right to the land if you are sinning in the land. And so God would, even if you say God is committed to the modern state of Israel, which that leap it's a theological leap that's I think it's unjustified biblically, but even if you say that, at least bring the whole package with you to say, if Israel, God's people, is slaughtering women and children and shooting kids in the head, God's going to vomit them out of the land, and he will be the one that will be opposing Israel, not Gog and Magog. The theological framework that says that the future Israel is being opposed by the world, that's an Israel that is faithfully following God, which from a New Testament perspective is Israel who is following Jesus, right? That's the whole point of Romans 9-11. It's like, even if you hold out a future place for Israel, which I think that's a valid hermeneutic, it's a mass group of Jewish people turning to the Messiah and following the ways of Jesus, which include love your enemy, love your neighbor, turn the other cheek, all the stuff Jesus talked about, so nobody can say that that's happening. Like, there's no, I mean, I've lived in Israel. Like, it's pretty hostile towards Christians. I mean, especially the more radical Orthodox Jews. It's not. I have one of my relatives is an Israeli Christian, and it's like they're it's hard to be a Israeli Christian. The Palestinians, a lot more Christians among Palestinians and Arabs in Israel and Palestine. So anyway, it's
you get relegated second class, and it legally. I mean, the national law passed a couple of years ago states that Israel is the land exclusively for the Jewish people in terms of self-determination. So I come across Christians all the time in discussion that have never even heard of the national law. They don't know that just a few years ago it got passed and is enshrined in Israeli law that legally non-Jews are second-class citizens. And they will still tout things like, oh, but look how good Christians have it. Or Netanyahu will get on and say, we're the most friendly country to Christians in the region. I'm like, have you been to Jordan? No, you're not. Lebanon, like, you're not the most friendly. It's political pandering. And it's amazing how eager many of my fellow evangelicals are to buy it completely without question. Because the alternative terrifies them. I'm going to be liberal. I'm going to be against God.
Right.
That's what I don't want to do. And I don't know the solution to it. I do know that voices like yours getting Christians to think biblically, to quote YouTube superstar Mike Winger, think biblically about these things. Well, that's what we're saying. Think biblically. Because this isn't coming from, this is coming from two people who think Scripture is the authority.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I don't love this term, but for the sake of my point, it is my conservative approach to the Bible that I learned under the tutelage of John MacArthur and his institutions that has formed my approach to Israel-Palestine today. I'm just following the conservative hermeneutic he gave me, in terms of like, again, I think if using that hermeneutic, I don't think it's I don't think it's outlandish to say if your sense of justice requires you to massacre women and children, your sense of justice is immoral. It's just unchristian. It's not something Christians should support biblically, not politically. You could I don't vote Republican your whole life. Be a MAGA, put on your MAGA hat, whatever. I don't care. Like biblically, no Christian should support what's going on. I'm sympathetic to the person that just said, and I've talked to like really smart people, evangelicals who are like, I don't know what to believe. It's so overwhelming. It's so intimidating to really sort it all out. I don't have time to do that. There's lots of stuff going on. There's stuff going on in Nigeria and South Sudan. It's like, there's stuff going on everywhere. Yeah. The difference is I know of no other conflict that would not have happened were it not for the support of the American evangelical church.
Yeah.
Like Nigeria, obviously, what's going on in Nigeria is absolutely horrible. Muslims massacring Christians. It's been going on for a while. It's flared up recently. But I don't know any American evangelical who is supporting the Muslim slaughter of Christians in Nigeria. And yet, that's why this situation is unique. If the American evangelical church on the whole stood up and said, we are not supporting any political leader who is behind this, that would literally would it end? It would
massively change.
Massively change.
Yeah.
You still have the billionaire donors and AIPAC and the Israel lobby, but even that is largely supported by evangelical Christians, and some, Jews, but more evangelicals. When Netanyahu comes over here, he doesn't meet, he might also meet with, billionaire Jewish donors, but he meets with evangelicals like that. He knows that this is what is keeping people in power that will continue to support him. So
I could not agree more. And somebody posted, I think it was Bill Maher said, where are all the Christians protesting the massacre in Nigeria? Blah, 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 Gaza. And I just commented, I said, how many of my tax dollars have funded Boko Haram? And how many politicians are openly saying, I stand with Boko Haram forever? Right. As soon as that happens, you will see those people come out, or at least me. Right. You'll see me come out and say, this is horrible and this is evil. But nobody's doing that. That's the difference. Right. This is being done in my name as an American and as an evangelical Christian. This is being done in my name. So I have two reasons to be doubly vocal against it.